I don't make a sound when I stray. You better just run for your life.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This is Haseo here. Today we're going to be covering our thoughts on the pros and cons, the build conceptions or theories, and what I think of my initial impression on ML Tywin today. So I'm going to be playing the video. This is it's kind of like my second time watching this. I initially watched it just to get a gist of what he does and what his stats kind of look like. So just to start this off, his skill animation for S3 looks amazing. It kind of has like a Melissa vibe, because the backdrop of the skill is kind of like a castle almost, or like, I don't know. It's nice though. I really like it. And since we already have his portrait up here, or his artwork, we'll just cover that and my thoughts on that initially. He looks absolutely amazing. He is husbando AF. He has a very nice colorway, or kind of contrast, I would say. I really like how that kind of like almost like a little rose pink with the red and gold armor pieces, and then with the black, I don't know if that's chainmail or if that's just like a shirt that he has on, but it looks really nice. First impressions of his aesthetic, I would give him like a solid 9 out of 10 for a male character, and I'm pretty happy that they're releasing more important or impactful male characters, because it's kind of been like back-to-back, like non-stop lolly waifus, or like Melissa and Alencia, or it's kind of, you know, it's been a lot of females, and I think husbandos deserve a little bit more love lately. So he is amazing, great aesthetics, and we're gonna go ahead and get into kind of his skill set. So, he is the captain of the Royal Guards of Lafundos, who seeks only to increase his station and power. Tywin originally was hard-working knight of Lafundos. Ambitious Tywin, on the other hand, is cruel and arrogant. He is very friendly, warm-hearted, and trustworthy to people he regards as useful, but those he deems useless become nothing more than a stepping stone on his journey to gain power. Sounds pretty cool. Alright, so this is another stopping point for us here. This is going to be Ambitious Tywin's stats. He is going to be a light knight. That's pretty nice. His health is actually lower than Alencia, and I believe his speed is around average for a knight. I wouldn't say he's slow for a knight. I know Charlotte is actually like around 90 something, if I remember right. But yeah, no, he has pretty average speed. His defense is pretty good. His health is 6,800, so that's pretty good for a knight. It's about, I would say it's about average. The only two people that I can recall off the top of my head who have higher stat for base HP than Tywin would be Alencia and Dark Corvus, both of them being warriors, which is interesting. But yeah, his imprint is going to be 12.9% SSS for the back left and the front right, and for a self imprint it's going to be 18% health. So that's it's pretty nice. Everything else in terms of his attack and crit chance and whatnot seem pretty standard for a knight. And yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of move along. Oh, this is going to be his S3, Flash. Attacks all enemies with an instant sword storm, with a 65% chance each to decrease speed and make them unhealable for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. So this S3 reminds me of Fireball and Cezanne, just without the defense break. I think the percent chance is actually the same, if not a little bit lower than Balls and Cezanne's. But yeah, so personally, I'm just gonna kind of go over the pros and the cons of each skill as we see them, and then I'll kind of, at the end of that, I will go ahead and kind of theory craft a possible set, an artifact, and what I think is going to work best for him, and what slot or role he is going to play in a team that he will play best, in my opinion. So his S3 is a 5-turn cooldown at max Molagora, and I think personally I would take this to a +5 for that last plus 10% effect chance. I don't think you're going to want to do +6 and +7, primarily because those are probably going to cost epic catalysts and a Molagora Go. If not, what would be worse would be like 5 Molagoras, because then that would be more than 1 Molagora Go. I have seen some units that do that. However, so yeah, my recommendation for this skill 3 would be to take it to +5 for that 10 effect chance, and the -1 turn cooldown. -1 turn cooldown is pretty much like the bare minimum you're going to want to enhance to on any given unit that you're going to ever want to build. So +5 is where my recommendation lies with this skill. And my pros and cons of this skill: the pros would be speed down and unhealable are both very useful debuffs in RTA or in PvP. However, a 65% chance is a little bit low. And not only that, but there's just so many people who do immunity set now. So I personally think the pro of this would be to try and make him a slower or kind of mid-speed tier unit who will rotate turns but not be immediately on that front line or that first rotation, because you want your enemies to go first before Tywin goes so that they strip off their immunity, or if they have it, you want to go after somebody who you have that can strip AoE, like Hirado, Alencia, or even Flitica, the ML Litica. Her S2 can strip 1 debuff, or buff, I believe. I don't have her, so I'm not too familiar, but I believe it's 1 buff. And then a couple other units like ML Sage Ball and Zazan can also strip. Yeah, so I think if you speed tune properly and he goes after your stripper, or that's pretty much gonna have to be his role in terms of using this S3 with any chance at all of landing it. You do not want to make him like 180 or 200 speed. This is gonna be, if anything, it's gonna be more detrimental than helpful, in my opinion. And yeah, we'll go ahead and keep going. S2 is really gonna be where he shines. And this is where I kind of want to stop and talk about it some more. So his S2 Battle Command has a 75% chance to dispel 1 debuff from all allies when the caster is debuffed after being attacked, and can only activate once per turn. So this meaning each unit that has a turn, if they hit him and he is debuffed, he will strip a debuff from the entire team. And he has a 25% dispel debuff effect chance gain. Oh, so this is actually not after the Molagora. So I believe his S3 has 15% more effect chance than it's written, so 80% instead of 65, which would be solid. And this S2, I believe, has a up to 100% chance to dispel 1 debuff from all allies, which is including himself, after being attacked if he has debuffs. So people are worrying or being skeptical about units that can do multiple debuffs at a time hitting him. Personally, I don't really think that that's going to matter, because even if somebody dizzies, the moment that they hit him again with like a follow-up AoE, it's going to strip the remaining debuff or something like that as well, I would imagine, since he's still debuffed. So I can't see that being too much of a hindrance, I guess, I would say. The pros and cons of this skill. So the pros would be it can go up to 100% debuff, or the 100% effect chance, so that meaning that it's guaranteed to proc. Similar to that of Fighter Maya, who also has a not the exact same, but a similar mechanic, but it's geared towards herself, not the entire team. So that is amazing. There's not many units that can do that. So And another pro of this skill that I can think of immediately off the top of my head is that this essentially means you want ambitious Tywin to run at 0 effect resistance if that's at all possible for your gearing. So you can focus so much more stat prevalence onto effectiveness, health, and defense. This is a huge bonus for ML Tywin, because at this point he's kind of like Zerato, Champion Zerato. You want him to get debuffed so that he can do something or he can use his mechanic. And I think that is amazing, personally, because that means that you can focus way more on tankiness and then just running that higher effectiveness build so that you can land your S3 and your S1. A con for this skill would be, I guess, that it is somewhat susceptible to a multiple debuff AoE unit if that second or third debuff is crucial to getting stripped right away. Like if you only strip like unhealable but then unbuffable is still up, that's pretty bad in terms of, since SSB does that. Or even vice versa, if you strip unbuffable but then you still have unhealable, that can cause a lot of problems in RTA or PvP. So I can see where this would kind of be annoying, I guess. That would be my only con that I can think of for this particular skill. And yeah, we'll go ahead and move along here now. Overall though, S2 is amazing. Very solid skill to have, or passive. And there's him stripping it. This is another example. So this is pretty much the anti-Basar, anti-cleave unit that everybody is going to want to have on their defenses or in RTA to have as like a pocket pick. So this is going to be his S1. Attacks with a sword with a 60% chance to provoke for 1 turn. Removes 4 souls from the opponent. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. So there are multiple things already that strike as a very huge benefit for this this character. My pros for this skill would be that he has up to a 75% chance to provoke for 1 turn once you get +2, which usually is fairly cost effective for Molagora enhancements. And I also forgot to mention that for S2, my skill up recommendation for that is complete max. You need that 100% chance. If it's not 100% chance, it's essentially 0% chance. That's what I've learned for crit chance. That's what I've learned for effectiveness. It's basically for everything. So you want max Molagora on S2, you want up to +5 on S1 or S3, and you want bare minimum S2 or S1 to be +2 so that you can get that +15% effect chance. It's just way too much effect chance to give up for most likely not too many Molagoras. So pros would be that he has a 75% chance to provoke for 1 turn, similar to that of FCC, and that already brings me to my next point, that if you have a provoke on S1 or any good debuff on S1 as a knight, it immediately brings to the topic that you want to most likely run Elbrus Ritual Sword on them, because they can utilize their S1 effectively that way. And it removes 4 souls from the opponent. So this is kind of like a tanky, beefy version of Assassin Sid mixed with like F Maya for AoE. It's pretty amazing when you think of like how much utility and safety you're bringing to your team just from having this one unit. And there is an overwhelming amount of Basar in PvP defenses right now, in Champion, in Legend. It's ridiculous how frequently you see him. So this one unit can effectively give you a safety net for your entire team against pretty much like 90% of the PvP defenses right now in any competitive level. So I think ML Tywin so far is looking like a 100% you should pull for him if you have the resources. This character, if anybody gets him in mid to late game status or progression, this will only benefit you, because you will be able to skyrocket your potential on force banning in RTA or climbing easily without too much of a worry against like 90% of arena defenses with Basar in it. And removing 4 souls is also really good. It opens up the capability for ML Tywin to be seen on PvP defense teams as well. Because not only is Grass Basar very prevalent in the defense arena for PvP, he's also extremely prevalent in the offense arena meta for PvP as well, and for RTA. So this opens up a huge amount, because if he counters on Elber's Ritual Sword and AoE strips a debuff immediately, he can immediately provoke for 1 turn, and he removes 4 souls from the opponent. So this usually, if I recall correctly, from Assassin Sid, even if that person is running immunity set on the target, he will still lose the souls. That's not a debuff, it's just an effect. So that means this removing 4 souls from the opponent, it doesn't matter whether the person is running an immunity set or not, they're still gonna lose 4 souls, which is essential in any cleave composition. Typically they run Taga Hells on their Basar or whoever they may be running it on, and then they end up getting drained 4 souls, and if they get provoked, even worse. So that means that they typically won't be able to burn. Some people do run 2 mages offense with Basar and then like an ML Mercedes or a Celestial or a C Challenger Dominial. That will be another book holder if they have 2 max limit break Taga Hells, which not too many people have. But so far, ML Tywin in my book is a 10 out of 10 I would want to recommend pulling for anybody who is desiring to be competitive, because he essentially counters like 90% of the current up-to-date meta. Potential sets here that we can see used on Tywin. I think I'm pretty sure counter and counter and HP or counter and defense are going to be his bread and butter with an Elber's Ritual Sword for the artifact. I think that set and that artifact is almost 110% going to be the most optimal set for him. Because if he has a counter set and he has the Elber's Ritual Sword, I believe Elber's at plus 30 is like 25%? Something like that, or at least 20%. And then counter set itself is also 20% if he gets attacked. So that makes it so that if an Elber's Ritual Sword is 20+%, if any of your allies get attacked, there's a chance of proccing that to counterattack. However, counter set makes it so that if you get attacked, you have a 20% chance to counterattack. Now that is amazing, because you're essentially giving yourself way more opportunity to proc a counterattack, which will strip 4 souls from the enemy, which can immediately dismantle their cleave. I think he's amazing. I would 100% recommend pulling for this unit, mainly because he is the the best counter to ML or to regular Basar that is available or going to be available in this game. And yeah, guys, those are my initial thoughts. My end game, or not end game, but my overall thoughts on him is that he's amazing. If I had to rate him out of 10 in terms of just overall capability, for what he does, I would say at least he's a solid 8, if not a soft 9. Yeah, I think that's a fair judgment on him, in my opinion. And like I said before, just to reiterate, I think counter set with a HP or defense set for the secondary is going to be optimal for him. You want to run as little effect resistance as possible so that you can make sure that he gets debuffed to activate his S2 to cleanse on his entire team, which makes it a lot easier to focus more on those health rolls and those defense rolls, and then I guess speed if you want, and then effectiveness since you want to land those debuffs on his S1 and S3. Yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.